We are following breaking traffic news tonight. The westbound Gardiner is closed following a crash involving 3 dump trucks.
And a major crash also shut down the QEW for several hours after a dump truck hit a bridge in Mississauga.
And 3 people, including a teenage boy, have been stabbed near Jane and Lawrence. This after reports of a large fight. We are live at that scene tonight.
The man who killed a woman by lighting her on fire on a TTC bus has been found not criminally responsible.
This is Live at 5.
Good evening. I'm Bakari Savage.
And I'm Lena Latifat. Thank you for joining us. We begin with breaking news. A fatal crash has shut down the westbound Gardiner downtown, bringing traffic to a standstill tonight.
Right now, let's go live to CP24's Phil Perkins, who's under the Gardiner, or I guess just adjacent to it, on the ground street level with live updates. Phil.
Well, Bakari and Lena, for those of you who don't know right now, so this crash involved 3 dump trucks and the westbound Gardiner. They collided somehow around 2:15 this afternoon. Toronto police said that one of the drivers was in medical distress. They later then confirmed that a man in his 50s was pronounced dead. Now, there was no other injuries associated with this crash, but it has created some serious headaches for anyone who's trying to get out of the city around since then. Right now, all westbound lanes are closed on the Gardiner, the westbound Gardiner, between Jarvis and York. There are still ways that they have opened up the York on-ramp onto the westbound Gardiner. You can't get on at Jarvis right now. We also understand that, according to our adjoint our traffic reporter, after listening to her just a couple of minutes ago, you are able to drive southbound on the DVP. However, you will be directed off either at Jarvis or also at Lakeshore and Richmond. Before, they were taking people off at Bayview and Bloor, but you can continue to go southbound. If you want to get a little bit closer to the downtown core, you can get off at Richmond or on Lakeshore. And then if you have to continue back onto the westbound Gardiner, you could do so on Lakeshore and then get back on York Boulevard, or if you want to keep going on Spadina. So again, traffic at this point on the westbound Gardiner for almost 2 hours, more than 2 hours, traffic, whether it's civilian traffic or transport trucks or other dump trucks, were stalled there. They weren't moving a centimeter for over 2 hours. But we do understand now that most of the smaller, lighter traffic vehicles have been told to do a 3-point turn, get off, potentially on Jarvis. However, a lot of the heavy vehicles here, they are staying put for quite some time. Send it back to you guys.
All right, Phil Perkins keeping a close eye on this developing story just in time for the rush hour. What a mess. Let's check in with our traffic specialist, Adjoa, for the latest. So all westbound lanes on the Gardiner closed between Jarvis and York. What more can you tell us, Adj?
Yeah, exactly, Lena. All lanes closed for that fatal collision investigation that was involving the 3 dump trucks on the westbound Gardiner at York. No access, obviously, from Jarvis to this point. At least the York on-ramp is accessible. And what I can show you is the Jarvis on-ramp that usually takes you onto the westbound Gardiner. That is still confirmed closed. What they were doing, they were turning vehicles that were in the backlog around and using this ramp for vehicles to get off. They're keeping that closed. They do not want cars to get caught back up in the backlog at this point. And if you are making your way through, I can show you that there's absolutely no backlog anymore because they've managed to get the trucks off the highway. Also, a bit of more good news. Southbound DVP, the ramp to Bayview Bloor was also the only thing accessible because they shut down the highway. Southbound DVP at Bayview Bloor. They've reopened it since. Phil was right. You can keep heading south. You can either get off at Richmond or even get off at the Jarvis ramp. Past that point, you're going to be caught in the backlog, and they're forcing drivers off of that Jarvis ramp. It's going to be there for the next hour or so. That is the word from Toronto Police and Toronto Transportation. Before anything reopens. Once it does, we will keep you in the know. But once again, all lanes on the westbound Gardiner closed Jarvis to York for this fatal collision involving 3 dump trucks. I'll send it back to you.
This CP24 traffic report is brought to you by 407 ETR. Enjoy the journey with a stress-free commute.
3 people, including a teenage boy, they've been stabbed during what police describe as a brawl. This happened near Jane and Lawrence.
CP24's Andrew Brennan is at the scene for us and joins us live with the latest. This is so concerning. What happened, Andrew?
Yeah, it is very concerning, Lena and Bakari. And hearing from a sergeant at the scene, what we can tell you is all of this began just as school was being let out at Weston Collegiate, which is just north of us, about 350 yards away on Pine and on the north side of Lawrence. But that incident that's involved at least 30 young people, potentially even more, according to the sergeant, continued to trickle away from the school all the way to where we are on the south side here of Lawrence. And at this point, this is where we believe that of the 3 people that were confirmed stabbed, that the 15-year-old that police originally said had life-threatening injuries was found here. Now, we can report now that thankfully he is going to be okay. Whether or not he will have lasting injuries remains to be seen. But police are saying that the 15-year-old particularly is not in life-threatening condition, not in critical condition, therefore in hospital in medical terms. There were 2 other people reported to be stabbed, believed to be linked to all of this conflagration of violence, beginning with that brawl outside of Weston just after the school hour ended. Now, I did hear from a few people in the neighborhood as we first arrived, saying that they heard people screaming in the streets and then also seeing people darting in all directions, trying to flee from what was going on. I believe we have that clip ready, and we're going to throw to that now.
I heard from my wife that there were people screaming on our street. We walked over to the police over here. We asked them, is everything okay? They said, yeah. Did you see anything? We said, no, but we have a Ring camera. My Ring camera shows 3, I don't know if they're high school kids, 3 males running away from my house. One of them had a bandana over his face. So we informed the police that that's what we have on our Ring camera. And then we saw the ambulance drive away, and then that's what I saw.
Now, just to confirm, the investigation will be continuing here, but of the 3 people that were stabbed, we can confirm that one person of those 3, that 15-year-old, his life is out of danger, although he has still been rushed to hospital, and 2 others stabbed, also hospitalized as well. We'll send it back inside.
All right, Andrew Brennan reporting live. Thanks so much for this, Andrew. Well, the man who killed a woman by lighting her on fire on a TTC bus 2 years ago has been found not criminally responsible. Denton
Norbu pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder at the start of his trial yesterday. He admitted to setting the 28-year-old victim on fire aboard a bus at Kipling Station in June of 2022. A forensic psychiatrist testified Norbu had been experiencing hallucinations for a decade prior to the killing. The judge agreed that Norbu did not understand his actions were wrong at the time. The Ontario Review Board will now determine next steps.
If someone is suffering from a severe mental illness like our client was, like schizophrenia, who was psychotic at the time, on a balance of probabilities, he was found to not know that his behavior was wrong, specifically morally wrong.
The issues with Mr. Norbu and his encounter with Ms. Dolma specifically deals with certain hallucinations, auditory, and certain beliefs that were caused by his psychosis due to his untreated schizophrenia. He had a belief against an entire group of people that was not founded in anything.
And let's bring in CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan for a closer look at this. You were in the courtroom when this decision was announced, Steve. There's really no winners here.
No, there certainly isn't. There's never going to be closure for that woman's family, regardless of whether or not this man was sentenced to 25 years in prison. So our system is all about punishment, yes, deterrence as well, but there's also rehabilitation. And if somebody is not criminally responsible, that's a medical diagnosis. This is not a momentary lapse in judgment when you go, oh, I wasn't thinking. This is a medical diagnosis by a doctor who the Crown and the defense both agreed with that diagnosis, and this is why the judge accepted the findings. The judge could have gone in another direction if she felt that the evidence wasn't there, but clearly the evidence was there to show that this man was suffering schizophrenia and psychotic episodes throughout the last 10 years without being diagnosed. So he's been walking around in the public for a 10-year period, and something exploded in him. He committed this offense, and sometimes it takes an offense like this to expose the cracks in our systems.
Mm-hmm. And also along those lines, Steve, you know, this isn't as simple as saying, you know, someone snapped one time. Let's kind of talk about that. And the bigger picture here.
Well, that's right. So the police gather evidence, and if they have reasonable grounds to believe that an offense has been committed, they make an arrest and they can lay charges. Now, reasonable grounds is defined as beyond mere suspicion. To convict in court needs to be done beyond a reasonable doubt. But if you are not mentally healthy when you're committing an offense and there is medical evidence to suggest that you are suffering from a mental health crisis or an issue, and there's a diagnosis made where you are not responsible for what you've done, our courts cannot punish you for that. They send you, they make you go to get medical help and rehabilitation in an institution, in a hospital, and at some point you could be released, but that will be up to the Ontario Review Board to make that determination way down the road. But this man needs medical help, and this is what he's going to get.
And what do you think the next few years are going to look like for him?
Well, it's going to be where he's going to get a rehabilitation. He's going to be treated for the schizophrenia, and at some point in time, the Ontario Review Board, which is usually it's former healthcare professionals, they will make a determination as to what his condition is. Can he be released? Who can he be released to? And at some point in time, he can be released into the public if they find that he's no longer a danger to the public. But that's a long ways away.
Right. Not anytime soon. Crime analyst Steve Ryan, thanks so much for your analysis as always. Appreciate this.
Right now it's 5:11, 17 degrees. This is Live at 5. And coming up, new data shows that auto thefts are down in the city, but carjackings are up. We're going to break it down after the break.
Welcome back. Well, the latest data show auto thefts are down in the city, but carjackings are actually up.
Let's bring in CP24's Beatrice Vaisman for a closer look at the numbers. Beatrice.
Bakari and Lena, the numbers have been pretty consistent for months now, and I covered this story back in April, and the deputy police chief spoke to the Police Services Board. He talked about the fact that carjackings over that period of the year, Jan 1st to April 1st, were up 98%. Well, today we've got some updated numbers from Toronto Police as well. They say there's been 135 carjackings so far this year, so from, let's say, January 1st to June 1st. That's compared to 76 reported carjackings during the same period in 2023, so almost double. Today, we also learned from the Toronto Police Service there's actually a decrease when it comes to auto theft. So these are non-violent car thefts. Carjackings is when there's violence used in the midst of one of these thefts. With car thefts, almost 4,500 vehicles in total stolen so far this year. That's actually about a 21% decrease compared to the same time last year when I asked the Toronto Police Service what they attribute this to. What are the reasons behind this decrease? Well, they say it's comes from a combination of things. Firstly, heightened public awareness. This is a story that's been in the news a lot. We've been talking about it a lot. So it's encouraged people who own cars to take proactive measures to mitigate the risks of thefts. For example, using those bars on their steering wheels, Faraday bags, maybe securing their keys better than they were in the past, along with the combination of efforts of law enforcement across different municipalities, including initiatives to educate the public. We know the federal government has also taken some measures as well, unveiling just last month its national strategy to combat theft, auto theft particular, aimed with some measures that aimed at preventing cars from being shipped abroad at ports, like in the Port of Montreal, for example. So people clearly doing a great job at securing their keys, their vehicles better than they used to be, and heightened public awareness probably has a lot to do with it, Lena and Bakari.
All right, Beatrice Vaisman live in studio. Thanks so much for these stats, Bea.
Well, a prayer vigil is going to be held tonight at St. Anne's Church in Little Portugal, which was destroyed by fire on Sunday.
CP24's Melissa Duggan is there for us and joins us live with more on what is happening this evening as that community continues to mourn.
Yes, and the community is going to be coming together tonight for a prayer vigil for St. Anne's Anglican Church after that fire on Sunday. I'm joined live now by Reverend Don Byers, and I'm wondering how this event came together for tonight.
Really, it was a recognition yesterday that we needed a time for the church community and this larger community to come together to mourn, to thank this place for what it's served us over these years, and also to begin to say we need to look forward as a community. How do we begin our steps, our journey to move forward? But really recognizing that people want to share their stories. Honestly, there have been countless people over the course of the past couple of days coming here wanting to talk about their stories, and people want to do that together. And so I thought, why not do it here? Why not create that space for people to do that?
What are you you hearing from the community in terms of what this church meant to them?
Oh, gosh. It's almost hard to comprehend. I mean, people are talking about this is a church where they were baptized, where they were married. This is a church where, say, their great aunt and uncle went to church at one point. Concerts, as you heard earlier today, people had kindergarten graduations here. We had a children's choir concert in here recently. We've done things for Nuit Blanche. Like, it's all encompassing. And so people have had such experience with this place. And for some people, quite frankly, it was to have a place where they could sit and pray in the final months of COVID, for example, when things were starting to open, but there wasn't quite yet the public space. And we provided that here. So, yeah, it's leaving a mark on people's lives.
The devastating fire was just on Sunday. Is it too soon to think about the future?
We're in a liminal period. I'll say we're starting to think of the future. Already some wonderful people have started a GoFundMe campaign, which people can see on the website. We're already trying to do what we can. Right now, the critical thing is that we get our operations going. We're going to be using our church hall for as much as we can for services, for programming. We're going to be here in this community. So right now, it's critical that we keep things going, and already we are starting to say, we're going to rebuild. You know, as I've said to others, this is not the end of the story, it's the beginning. And it's an opportunity for us to actually imagine and create something that will be good for the community, but also inspire the nation and others, as this church has for so many years.
Thanks so much for that. But tonight, a time to reflect, a time to come together for the community. The prayer vigil beginning here about 7:30 tonight. Mayor Olivia Chow will be here as well. It will be here as well, and we'll bring it to you live. Back to you in studio.
Okay, looking forward to your coverage, Melissa. Thanks so much for this. Melissa Duggan live in Little Portugal this evening. Well, the QEW is reopened through Mississauga hours after a truck crashed into a bridge over the highway.
Shortly before 7 o'clock this morning, a dump truck with its bed raised hit the pedestrian overpass near North Service Road. The bridge was heavily damaged. Police had to close the QEW in both directions for inspections and repairs.
What happened, a dump truck had the box up, and it was coming through North Service Road. And I don't know if he dumped down where they're working on Coth or whatever, but the box was obviously not down. So he hit the bridge right where those 2x4 or those 2x12s are stuck out.
Yeah.
You see where it's knocked out? And you see here the corner's got a piece holding it up, like this yellow post over here. Yeah. It just knocked the whole bridge sideways. So it's kind of lucky that the thing didn't just drop right down.
That back of the truck where the load is carried had to be up, because this structure has been up since last year. So in order for you to hit it, you have to have an obstacle higher than level. You have to be like this, because it's been operating for 8 months. With QE traffic going for 8 months, they're all getting close to the completion stage. So it's physically impossible for that truck to hit it unless the tailgate was up.
There's many different kinds of safety equipment. That beeping one is just one. There's two-way AI cameras that are now integrated into trucks that are making them very safe. There's a ELD system, electronic logging book, that sort of makes sure that the drivers are operating within the hours of legal operation. So there's many things that, I can speculate all day long, but the be-all, end-all is that, I think the industry needs better technology, more technology, and, just create a safer environment, not only for the driver and the truck, but for everybody else.
And all lanes were reopened around 1:30 this afternoon. No vehicles were damaged. No one was hurt. It's still not clear yet if the driver of the dump truck is going to face any charges.
And new pictures have been released of the ongoing construction of the Gordie Howe International Bridge today. Two sections of the 2.5-kilometer long bridge are now just 11 meters apart. Crews are installing temporary bracing that will hold the two segments in alignment. The Canadian and U.S. sides are expected to meet over the Detroit River by the end of the month. Construction of the new international crossing that will link Interstate 75 in Michigan with the 401 in Windsor began in December of 2022.
It's 5:21, 17 degrees. This is Live at 5. Questions are being asked about all the sick days being taken by staff with the Toronto District School Board. Those details are straight ahead. Well, the TDSB is raising concerns about the number of sick days taken by staff.
A new report shows pervasive absenteeism among permanent employees cost the board $213 million last year alone, and that works out to nearly 9% of its total payroll. Elementary teachers called in sick 20.8 days, while high school teachers averaged 17.9 days, higher than the provincial average of 16 days. Educational assistants and custodians booked off an average of 27 and 25 days, respectively. The report says absenteeism can impact student learning and working conditions for staff.
Border workers, they've reached a deal with the government avoiding a strike. The unions, representing more than 11,000 Canadian Border Services employees, they struck a tentative agreement as a Friday strike deadline loomed. The terms still have to be ratified by union members. Previously, the union said that border workers, they were looking for pay similar to that of other law enforcement agencies.
It is 5:24, 17 degrees. You're watching Live at 5. Shares in Apple jump after it reveals it plans on incorporating artificial intelligence into its products and services. We'll tell you what the company has planned just ahead. Welcome back. Apple has jumped into the race to bring artificial intelligence to the masses.
Yeah, during its Worldwide Developers Conference yesterday, the tech giant spotlighted a range of features designed to soup up the iPhone, iPad, and Mac. Apple's leaning on ChatGPT, made by the San Francisco startup OpenAI, to help make its often bumbling virtual assistant, Siri, smarter and more helpful. And tech expert Winston C. joined us with more of the new features.
Siri is a voice assistant within Apple, and that's been in our phones for years. Artificial intelligence has the ability to integrate with things like large language models, which enables predictive thinking. It allows for the phone to use your personal data in a private, secure way to think ahead and give you predictive ways to maybe reply to emails, maybe tell you, write schedules and recipes for you. These are that's kind of the extra mile that our phones didn't do before, that Apple is hoping that this offering will allow users to be able to really tap into that possibility.
And because investors liked what they heard, shares in Apple jumped $14 or more than 7% today to $207.
Interesting. 5:28, 17 degrees. You're watching Live at 5. We continue to follow breaking news. The westbound Gardiner remains closed at York following a dump truck crash. This is the live look of the latest there. We'll have an update on the situation, and we'll tell you how it's impacting the drive home. Stay with us.
We have breaking traffic news. The westbound Gardiner, it is closed following a crash involving 3 dump trucks. This was a fatal crash.
And staying on the roads, a major crash also shut down the QEW for several hours. This after a dump truck hit a bridge in Mississauga.
And a teen boy has been stabbed near Jane and Lawrence after reports of a large fight.
And the man who killed a woman by lighting her on fire on a TTC bus has been found not criminally responsible.
This is Live at 5.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Lena Ladifat.
And I'm Bakari Savage.
We continue to follow breaking news that will impact your commute tonight. A fatal crash has shut down the westbound Gardiner downtown, bringing traffic to a standstill.
Let's check back in with CP24's Phil Perkins, who is live with updates from the ground. Phil.
Hey there, Bakari. Hey there, Lena. That's right. This crash happened around 2:15 this afternoon on the westbound lanes of the Gardiner, right before the York on-ramp lanes merge with the rest of the highway traffic. This happened around 2:15. 3 trucks were involved in this. Toronto police say that a driver was in medical distress. They later say that a man in his 50s was pronounced dead. So keeping things in perspective here, a man has lost his life here, but the result of this, the ripple effect of this, has been felt throughout the city, no doubt, for people trying to get out of here right before rush hour. I will say there is some better news for the last couple of hours. The York Street on-ramp from York, from Lakeshore, is operational. Cars are making their way there. Toronto Police are directing traffic as they always do during rush hour. We understand the DVP southbound is having traffic go through. However, getting an update now, and Adjo and Yabba will confirm this as well, that the on-ramp, or the off-ramp, excuse me, from the southbound DVP to Richmond and Eastern, that is closed right now, and that is due to a collision. So if you're going to get off the DVP, you want to divert from this closure on the Gardiner. You want to get off at Lakeshore, go across Lakeshore, and you're going to get back on either on York or Spadina, or if it's traffic is flowing, just keep going down Lakeshore if you're going to be going westbound out of the city. But in the meantime, though, there were cars stranded on the lanes of the westbound Gardiner for hours, over 2 hours. There were people just resting along the guardrails here on the westbound Gardiner, but over the last couple of minutes, they have been instructed to get off. They all did their three-point turns. They got off of Jarvis. But these heavier trucks, some dump trucks here, we actually see them moving a little bit. Okay, we see some construction dump trucks now slowly moving, as you're probably watching this live now, just on the westbound lanes of the Gardiner. We're seeing some dump trucks here and the transport truck there now moving with the flow of traffic. And it looks like, as Adjo mentioned last half hour, the lanes will start opening up over the next hour or so. So if you're watching this and you're at the office, maybe hold off a little bit if you don't want to take transit or bike home or wherever. Maybe just hold off, do a little bit extra work. Once these lanes open up in the next couple of minutes, within the next 30 minutes or so, keep it on CP24, then maybe you can hop into your car and try to get out. Send it back to you guys.
Yeah, that's a good idea and some good advice. Phil Perkins on the Gardiner closure tonight. This is going to cause a lot of traffic headaches for a lot of people. Adjo and Siayabwa all over what this means for drivers tonight.
Well, it means chaos. If you're trying to make your way home and you're trying to get home maybe early, that's not going to happen from work or school because of this ongoing situation. But it looks like things might be starting to get a little bit better on the westbound lanes of the Gardiner. I'll give you a live look on the westbound Gardiner. All lanes at this point still remain blocked for this fatal collision that was involving 3 dump trucks. They managed to just get one truck off the highway, and it looks like they're hooking them all up to tow. So just a matter of time before at least a lane or two starts to reopen. In the meantime, it does look like a virtual ghost town on the westbound Gardiner. No traffic getting by. This is because, as Phil was saying, on the DVP now, they have shut down the highway at Richmond, so you can access the Richmond ramp. You're being forced off of that ramp. The highway is closed at Richmond. That's why you're seeing a bit of a backlog as everybody just merges to get around. These drivers think they can access the Gardiner. That is not the case. You're going to be forced on to Richmond. And again, hopefully within a matter of time, all lanes will be reopened. You'll also find the Jarvis on-ramp to the westbound Gardiner also closed. They just don't want vehicles getting caught in the backlog. Back to the problem. At least the York on-ramp is accessible, so you can hop on the highway and bypass the situation. Again, hopefully lanes reopen soon, and once they do, we will keep you in the know here at CP24. I'll send it back to you.
All right. That traffic update, or whatever we call that, with CP24 traffic specialist, Adjo and Siayabwa. Thanks a lot. Well, a teenage boy has been stabbed during what police describe as a brawl. It happened near Jane and Lawrence. And
CP24's Andrew Brennan is at the scene with the very latest on this investigation. We're learning that up to 30 kids were involved in this brawl, Andrew?
That's what police are telling us. They say they believe this started just outside of Weston Collegiate, which is a stone's throw away from where we are on the north side of Lawrence. We are just west of Jane and Lawrence, about a block south from Lawrence. And actually, in the last few minutes, I've spoken to someone who was among the people that found that 15-year-old boy following him being stabbed. And all 3 people were stabbed, according to police. All will be okay. But the 15-year-old, it was a particularly touch-and-go situation. When we first got the reports of this incident happening, it was a question of whether or not he would survive. He was rushed to hospital, but diverted from a trauma center to a local hospital. And what we're told now is that he does have very, very serious injuries, but he's expected to be okay. But like I said, I did speak earlier with a woman named Adele, and what she was telling us is that she heard something outside. She went outside. She saw all these people, these children running away, and then some coming back. And it was that when she saw the 15-year-old, he had been stabbed. Take a listen.
We heard a bunch of noise, and then I saw some young boys all running. So I looked out my side window, saw them all running. So then I seen some action happening across the street. And so then I ran to call. And then all of a sudden he came across the street again, the young boy, and that's when he collapsed at my neighbor's. So I just opened the door quickly. I said, "Does young boy need help?" And that's when one of the friends yelled out, "He's been stabbed." So I screamed to my daughter, grab a towel, and I ran him with a towel. Some of his friends were putting pressure, were saying put pressure. I was just talking to him, keeping him calm, just saying you're going to be okay.
And she said that he was calm and coherent as she did speak to him, telling us that he was stabbed along his left side, below where his rib cage would be, around here, and ultimately saying that he seemed like a very sweet kid. And the first thing that she asked me when I came to her fence was, is he going to be okay? Well, we can report that he will survive, but that being said, serious incident involving 30-odd, potentially, young people outside of a school. A lot of cause for concern there. Lena, Bakari, I'll send it back to you both.
All right, Andrew Brennan reporting live. Thanks so much for this, Andrew. The man who killed a woman by lighting her on fire on a TTC bus 2 years ago has been found not criminally responsible.
Norbu pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder. This was at the start of his trial yesterday. He admitted to setting the 28-year-old victim on fire aboard a bus at Kipling Station in June of 2022. A forensic psychiatrist testified that Norbu had been experiencing hallucinations for a decade prior to the killing, and the judge agreed that Norbu did not understand that his actions were wrong at the time. The Ontario Review Board will now determine next steps.
COVID didn't help because he didn't get the help he needed, but he was trying to get help the entire time. Now, it wasn't a question of, in some ways, he couldn't get the specialized help he needed due to the general state of mental health facilities in Ontario in the last, I don't know, forever, to be honest.
This is a very serious set of allegations. It was a very serious case. And I think that mental illness and mental health is a relatively recent phenomenon. Not a lot of people are familiar with it. And sadly, since COVID ended, what I've seen as a defense attorney is we've seen more and more cases of people with severe mental illness finding themselves in the criminal justice system. So what you really need to do is delve into the person's mental health past, their personal past, to basically uncover how long they've been suffering from these symptoms and if the symptoms are legitimate. And in our client's case, they certainly were.
Right now, let's bring in CP24's crime analyst, Steve Ryan, for a closer look at this. Steve, we have heard mental health over and over again. Can you talk about the role, the partnership of, those mental health crisis support workers when it comes to partnering with police?
Well, they're extremely important if the police are called to a residence or a location where somebody is experiencing a mental health crisis. But oftentimes when the police are called, it's too late. Oftentimes that person is at their heightened crisis, or they're out in the public untreated and they commit violent crimes or a homicide. But to be found not criminally responsible, that's not a defense that gets pulled out of thin air. That is a medical diagnosis by a forensic psychiatrist who the defense and the Crown agreed with, as did the judge. And this is why she found him not criminally responsible today. It's a very serious allegation when it comes to you're not criminally responsible, but it needs to be proven with facts, and that was done today.
Steve, we now know that this man was experiencing hallucinations for close to a decade, some very serious mental health issues. Was there any way to prevent this?
Well, if you listen to what defense counsel said there with regards to the lack of resources getting this man the treatment that he did, so I guess we can speculate that if the resources were there, he would have been treated for his schizophrenia. He was misdiagnosed with depression, according to what was said in court. So for 10 years, he's been schizophrenic, having these psychotic episodes out in the general public. And I guess it was just a matter of time before something was done violently, and the police gathered their evidence, laid a charge on reasonable grounds. But if you are not mentally well when you commit an offense and you have a medical diagnosis, this country does not punish you for doing that. They work on getting you help and rehabilitation.
Yeah, and Steve, a lot of people are hearing this. It's hard to come to terms with that.
It is, but you need to have respect for the law, and that's the law. And it makes sense when you think about it from the big picture. We punish for the person that commits a crime if they're found guilty. It's done as a deterrent for others, but if you are mentally not well, it serves no purpose to put somebody in jail without giving them the help that they need. It's not going to deter the next mentally ill person from committing an offense. So it's about rehabilitation. So I get that it's tough to accept, but it is the reality in law, and we have one of the best judicial systems in the world and the most fair. and this is a fair outcome.
And this man, Mr. Norbu, is going to be off the streets for a long time. Coming to that public safety concern, I mean, there's no time that he's going to be interacting with the public anytime soon.
100%, that's right. He will get the treatment that he needs, and it'll be reviewed by the Ontario Review Board, who are now responsible for his well-being, and he will not be on the streets for the next little while. He may not ever be on the streets. It'll be a constant assessment, but the goal is rehabilitation and not punishment when you are suffering from mental health issues.
Okay. CP24's crime analyst, Steve Ryan. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Right now, it is 5:42, 17 degrees. This is Live at 5. A prayer vigil will be held tonight at the site of the historic church in Little Portugal. It burned down over the weekend. Stay with us.
A prayer vigil will be held tonight at St. Anne's Church, which was destroyed by a fire on Sunday.
CP24's Melissa Duggan joins us live from Little Portugal with more. Melissa, we understand that the mayor will attend the vigil tonight.
That's right. Mayor Olivia Chow expected to be here. I was talking with the Reverend from St. Anne's Anglican Church a little earlier on, kind of explaining what we can expect tonight. He says there will be music, there will be moments of silence, and as you mentioned, Mayor Olivia Chow, she will also be addressing the group that's going to be gathering here. The prayer vigil expected to begin about 7:30 tonight. Preparations already underway. A city vehicle just pulling up moments ago. They have road closure signs that they're going to be putting up here. We are expecting a significant gathering because since Sunday, when the fire erupted at the church, people have just been pouring into this area to share their stories, to have a look at the church that now just has this charred remnant of where the dome was. As I mentioned, I was speaking with Reverend Don Byer just moments ago, and I asked him what the idea was, how this event for tonight came together. Have a listen.
We needed a time for the church community and this larger community to come together to mourn, to thank this place for what it's served us over these years, and also to begin to say we need to look forward as a community. How do we begin our steps, our journey to move forward? But really recognizing that people want to share their stories. Honestly, there have been countless people over the course of the past couple of days coming here wanting to talk about their stories, and people want to do that together. And so I thought, why not do it here?
Flowers have been left outside of the church already. We are expecting that vigil to grow as well throughout the evening. Again, the fire erupted on Sunday morning. No one was inside the building at the time. No injuries here. And also, it's stunning that no buildings nearby were damaged during this 4-alarm fire. The fire not considered suspicious at this time. The investigation does still continue. Again, the prayer vigil outside of the church beginning at 7:30 tonight. Back to you.
All right, Melissa Duggan, live in Little Portugal tonight. Thanks so much for that, Melissa, and we will have extensive coverage of that vigil this evening. The QEW is reopened through Mississauga hours after a truck crashed into a bridge over the highway.
Shortly before 7 o'clock this morning, a dump truck with its bed raised, it hit the pedestrian overpass near North Service Road. The bridge was heavily damaged. Police had to close the QEW in both directions for inspections and repairs.
And we have more breaking news coming into our newsroom now. We have an update on that situation on the Gardiner. Let's go right to Adjoa and Siayabwa. What can you tell us?
I can tell you now that all lanes on the westbound Gardiner have been reopened at York. Traffic is getting by. There is a piece of that right lane, actually a full right lane, that remains blocked, but at least you still have those 2 left lanes that are accessible again. I'm just going to give you a little bit of a backlog view. You can see a couple of vehicles, and the on-ramp, that's the on-ramp from the end of York Bay Yonge, the other on-ramp that gets you onto the highway, and even the Jarvis on-ramp looks like it's since been reopened. It's accessible again, so that's all those cars you're seeing funnel through. They are just reopened that ramp that was being forced off. Traffic was being forced off at Richmond. You can access now the southbound DVB heading onto the Gardiner to make your way through. So just in time, in the heart of rush hour, all lanes have been reopened for the most part. Just the right lane remains blocked on the westbound Gardiner at York Bay Yonge following that fatal collision involving 3 dump trucks. So that's the best news we could give you all afternoon long. I'll send it back to you.
All right, helping everybody get home. CP24's Adjoa and Siayabwa. Thanks a lot. It's 5:49, 17 degrees. This is Live at 5. The parent companies of Sobeys and Loblaws, they've been ordered to hand over their records as part of a probe by the Competition Bureau. That story's after the break.
Well, the province is looking to boost trade and investment with our fourth largest market in the U.S.
We're Illinois' #1 export destination, along with 17 other states. And we just share the same values. We share the same values, quality of life as well.
As each of our economies grows and evolves, we remain reliable partners to one another. Today, I think we're going to take a new step forward because there's so many new things for us to be working on together.
Well, Premier Doug Ford welcomed the governor of Illinois to the city. This is where they signed a new memorandum of understanding. The province says that the MOU fosters collaboration in key sectors such as automotive, agriculture, energy, and advanced manufacturing. There will also be regular business missions and the sharing of market information and best practices on skills training. The total trade between Ontario and Illinois was valued at more than $29 billion last year, and we're the state's second largest export market.
Well, the Competition Bureau has obtained a pair of court orders as part of its probe into potential anti-competitive conduct in the grocery sector. The court orders require the parent companies of Loblaw and Sobeys to hand over records about real estate holdings, lease agreements, and customer data. The Bureau says the information will help determine whether the grocery giants are imposing restrictions that negatively impact competition. The watchdog is investigating the use of property controls in the industry. It says there is no conclusion of wrongdoing at this time.
McGill University has made another offer to members of a pro-Palestinian encampment on its campus in downtown Montreal. The university is proposing to review its investments in weapons manufacturers and grant disciplinary amnesty to students and employees participating in the encampment. The protesters have been occupying McGill's lower field since late April. They're demanding that the school cut ties with Israeli companies and academic institutions. McGill says its amnesty offer will not extend to those who commit acts of vandalism or harassment.
A new poll by UNICEF and Leger finds Canada's parental leave system is deeply inequitable. The survey finds educated parents with secure jobs are favored, while those whose children stand to benefit the most from paid time off are excluded. 1 in 3 newborns in Canada has a parent unable to access parental leave, but 3/4 of respondents believe that all parents get paid leave. Just 38% of parents with kids under 6 said the amount of time they received was enough to meet the needs of their family.
It's 5:55, 17 degrees. This is Latin 5, and coming up, Toronto's Natalie Spooner has won the first ever PWHL MVP award.
Welcome back. Toronto's Natalie Spooner has won the first ever PWHL MVP award.
Spooner accepting the Billie Jean King Award from its namesake at the league's award ceremony in Minnesota. Spooner led the PWHL in scoring in its inaugural season, putting up 27 points, including 20 goals.
I'm so happy, and I couldn't ask for anything more than to be a part of this inaugural PWHL season and get to witness so many historic and record-breaking moments for women's hockey. I think the part now that is the most exciting for me is that we're just getting started. I couldn't be more excited to see where we take it all and the countless little girls that will be inspired by everything that we've been able to accomplish.
What an achievement. Spooner helped Toronto secure the best regular season record and first seed in the playoffs before she suffered a serious knee injury that ended her season. Toronto's Troy Ryan also won Coach of the Year.
Well, several colorful pianos, they popped up in central Manhattan, available for anybody to play.
There's a lot of meaning behind this, actually. The Sing for Hope project was founded in response to 9/11 with a mission to help heal through art. Each of the pianos was created by a different artist, and it will be placed in various locations throughout New York City for the rest of June.
Hey, right now it's 5:59, 17 degrees. This is Toronto's breaking news.
And we are following breaking news. The westbound Gardiner at York is in the process of reopening